Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the class of Advanced Academic Reading and Writing. This course is being offered to multiple different programs all over the university, and the course code is ENGL 2116. The topic that we will discuss today is research proposal, and this is the part 1 of the lecture. I am Aisha Akram. So, under the topic of research proposal, we will discuss the following. What is academic research? The purpose of academic research? Language of research? A research proposal? The purpose and significance of a research proposal? And the skills required to prepare a research proposal. So before talking about what a research proposal is, we need to understand what research means. So there can be different kinds of research. There could be scientific research undertaken in laboratory conditions. Those are the scientific experiments taken out by researchers and scientists. That is a different kind of research. And there is another kind of research that we undertake in academics. That is called academic research. So an academic research is a theoretical kind of research. Some academic researches, like the ones we do in pure sciences or natural sciences or certain other disciplines, do have experimental parts as well, but they are more or less still based on a lot of theoretical research, a lot of background research, a lot of reviewing of prior researches done on the same topic. So academic research is slightly different from a research that would be undertaken in laboratory conditions or a pure scientific research. So all these definitions that I have mentioned on this slide are particularly about academic research only. A systematic investigation into a problem or a situation is research. So when you say that you're researching something or you're researching on a topic, that means that you are systematically, step by step, delving into the probe or investigation or questioning or looking out for some particular problem that you have defined in the very beginning as your research issue, as your research problem or situation. And research is undertaken to identify facts and or opinions to solve those problems that you have identified in the beginning. So to undertake any kind of research, you first have to determine the issue. You first have to determine a problem. So there has to be a problem, a subject specific, a knowledge specific issue, an academic problem that you want to investigate in detail. So to answer certain questions about that issue that you have determined in the beginning, you follow certain protocols and procedures to finally reach a, a conclusion. Another definition mentioned in the Cambridge English Dictionary says a detailed study of a subject, especially in order to discover new information or reach a new understanding, is called research. So there are different definitions that you will find all over the internet or in different academic writing books. you can consult any of them, because they would eventually lead to the same conclusion, that research is a systematic procedure of carrying out an investigation into something. So, our next concern is, what exactly is the purpose of undertaking an academic research of any kind? So, we do research, we perform research for several purposes. The main purpose is to seek truth about something. Another purpose could be to seek new knowledge, that you are looking for new knowledge in one particular field that you are trying to research on. Another purpose is to make a rigorous and relevant contribution to the existing body of knowledge. The existing body of knowledge means the existing research is done by other researchers all over the globe. The existing literature available on that topic that you are researching on. That existing research is called the existing body of knowledge on any particular topic or discipline. And when you are doing your part, when you are researching on the same topic in a different dimension, you are making a contribution into that existing body of knowledge. And another practical purpose is to seek academic and professional growth. So, you perform research for academic purposes. For example, if you're studying your bachelor's with a mandatory research component, like I did in my BS, we had a thesis that we had to submit at the end of the degree. Similarly, when you go for your MPhils and your PhDs, there is a mandatory component of research in those academic degrees. So, these are some uh, places where you find yourself in a situation where you have to undertake some kind of research. And if you teach somewhere in academia as a faculty member, then for your professional growth, you need to publish your researches, you need to write research papers. So, there are different purposes of why we even indulge into performing research. Another academic purpose of writing research, a research proposal rather, we'll talk about that in the later slides. At the moment, we are just talking about why do we perform research. So, but another general purpose of writing a research oriented something, a document, whatever, I'm not naming it at the moment as research proposal, but anything relevant to research. Another purpose could be to seek admission in different foreign universities. So many universities ask for a proper research proposal while you're applying for admissions in different degree programs. So that could be another reason for you to think about learning to undertake research. The next important thing is to understand the requirements of writing research. As a student of academic writing, you must realize that there is a difference between the writing expression and writing style in academic essays and whatever you write that falls within the range of academic writing. That writing is completely different from your other writings. For example, your informal writings, if you're writing an informal letter to somebody. So, within the academic writing, the research language is even more significant in a way that it has its own set of vocabulary and expressions. You might have heard about the term legalese. Legalese is the legal discourse, it's the legal language, it's the legal jargon used by law professionals. Similarly, each field has its own jargon. Now, research, let's not call it a jargon, but still, research has its own style of writing. Research has its own protocols that you need to follow. That is called the language of research. It has to be extremely formal. Uh, it has to follow certain protocols. For example, let me just quote my own example. Recently, I was working with a foreign advisor on my PhD thesis, and although I think that I have a good grip on academic writing, but he pointed certain phrases out where he thought that I was using colloquial language. Colloquial language is informal, communicative language. For example, in one of my sentences, I wrote about a character in the novel. I wrote in my thesis that when somebody annoyed her too much, Victoria just lost it. So, this phrase, lost it, is extremely informal. It's highly colloquial in nature. This is not something that you write in an academic essay or in a research paper or in a thesis by any means. So, this is how you need to structure your language more formally. You need to structure your language around the protocols of research. So use academic language style, academic writing style, and research has its own language, style, expression, jargon. And how do you learn these things? I mean, nobody knows the language of research by birth. So, how would you understand how to write research articles or research papers? You start reading other people's work. This is how you learn. Identify your field. For example, I am a student of literature, so I would find research papers that are relevant to my area of interest within literature, and then I will start reading them. This is how I will see the writing style of all those different researchers. Everybody has their own writing style, but they obviously follow some kind of a general protocol of formal writing. So, this is how you start to understand the needs of the linguistic needs, the linguistic requirements of research. You are a student of business administration, so what you should do is find out research articles written by good authors, established researchers in your field, or you can go to some highly recognized research journals in your discipline and start reading some articles from there. And then slowly you will learn how to structure your sentences while talking about something. So there are multiple ways of saying the same thing. There are multiple different ways, multiple different expressions to say the same thing, to convey the same message. One of those ways can be highly informal, and the other way could be very well structured and formal. So, this is how research language or academic language is different from our everyday discourse. Do not use informal vocabulary or expressions. I have just quoted my own example, that how I used a couple of informal expressions in my thesis and they were immediately caught by my foreign advisor. So, do not use any kind of informal vocabulary that is colloquial and that is conversational, because that does not go into your formal writing. How do you know that this vocabulary is informal and that vocabulary is formal? You know these things and you learn these things when you are in a habit of reading. When you read a lot of different academic essays, then you know that these are the formal expressions, and these expressions that you use in your daily language are informal. Create your own list of research specific phrases, terms, and connectors. This particular point is very helpful when you are in the process of writing your research article or research proposal or abstract or whatever. So if you have a list of generally used phrases that you have to use over and over again, and you do not want to repeat yourself, you should have an available list, and there are hundreds of lists of such sort available on internet. I have added a couple of references at the end of my slides. You can consult them, you can just google them on your own. Just write research paper vocabulary, or expressions used in research articles. So you should get some very reasonable results. So when you are, for example, research article or research proposal is not such a lengthy thing, but when you enroll yourself in MPhils and PhDs, and when you're writing a graduation thesis, for example, it's a long project. So you, even those students who have a very good grip on writing or academic writing, even they find themselves repeating things over and over again, repeating words over and over again. For example, while writing my PhD thesis, I often found myself repeating a phrase like so and so author opined, or so and so author is of the opinion. Now, because you have to say this 1,000 times in your thesis whenever you're citing somebody, so you have to sometimes you just run short of words, sometimes you run short of expressions. You, when you're in a flow of writing, you just can't decide what expression to write here. So if you have a list with you of expressions, of alternatives, of synonyms, then it becomes easier for you to change your words everywhere, instead of repeating the same expressions and words over and over again. So try to use different alternatives for the same word. These are some general examples. I just took them from internet somewhere. Very general examples of what academic language could look like. These are some connectors. For example, when you're connecting sentences, when you're connecting your thoughts, when you're connecting your argument or trying to say something, connecting one sentence with another, and you don't know what to write. So there are some examples of how you continue your talk, continue your argument or your point in a research writing. So, for example, moreover, furthermore, in addition, and then, in other words, to put it more simply, and conversely, alternatively, on the contrary, or on the other hand. So, if you have a list like this with not just two or three alternatives, rather a lot of, like, at least 10 or 15 different alternatives to one expression, you will not have to repeat the same word over and over again. For example, you would not have to write moreover, moreover, moreover in every other or every third or fourth sentence, because now you would have other possibilities. Now you would know that instead of moreover, you can write furthermore in the next sentence, or in addition to in the next sentence, or something else. So, this is why keeping such kind of a vocabulary sheet of expressions, academic expressions, or research expressions, helps you a lot in your write up. So, now that we have talked about what research is and what academic research is and what is the language of research, let us come to our original topic, which is what is a research proposal. So, a research proposal is a document which is a concise and coherent summary of your proposed research. What does propose mean? It is pretty evident from the title itself. Research proposal means that you are proposing, you're suggesting, you're putting forward your research idea to somebody, to someone. And those someones or those somebodies could be your research funding team, a funding committee, your admission team, your supervisor, your department, or anybody. And an outline of the general area of your research interest is called a research proposal. So usually a research proposal is written before you start your thesis or before you apply for an admission in, for example, a foreign university. They would ask you for a research proposal, especially if you're applying in an MPhil or a PhD degree. Another scenario is where you would need a research proposal for applying for a grant, for a research grant, in Higher Education Commission, for example, or in your university. So all these different 3 or 4 situations that I have mentioned, they require to know what your idea is about what you want to do in research. So what kind of research are you planning to do? So for example, if you're applying for a grant, say, just saying as an example, so if you want to apply for a grant, they would not fund you unless you convince them that this is my research idea and this is how I will do it, and this is why it is convenient and doable. Similarly, if you apply for an admission somewhere in a university and they ask for your research proposal, that is meant to convince them that you are a worthy candidate for the degree, for admission in MPhil or PhD or whatever. Right, so in continuation with our ongoing discussion, let's talk about what's the purpose and significance of a research proposal. So, a research proposal is written to present and justify the need to study a research problem. So, now you are justifying to a committee or to your supervisor or to your teacher or to your employer that this is the reason that this particular research needs to be undertaken. The second purpose or significance is to present practical ways in which the proposed study should be conducted. So, for example, again, if you're applying for an admission or if you are applying for a grant, you need to convince your funding agency or your admission team of the ways in which your study is practical and can be done the way you have systematically proposed it to be done. Another significance of your research proposal is that it refers to the current state of knowledge in your field. So, by writing a research proposal, you are also containing the existing body of knowledge that is present there in your area of expertise or in your area of interest, that would be contained in your document of research proposal. So, this is how it is significant for the readers who would read it. They would know that these and these and these authors and researchers have already worked in the field that you are interested in, but you are contributing differently in so and so ways. So, you always need to be careful about uh, making a mark on that particular topic, leaving a mark on that particular topic that you're suggesting to research on, because you cannot repeat the existing research. You need to come up with some kind of a contribution. So, a research proposal helps you highlight that contribution. It explores the recent debates on the topic of research. So, like I just said, when you will cite the existing literature, and existing literature is a huge part of a research proposal. So, your research proposal covers all the previously done researches on the same topic so that the reader knows that these are the existing discussions and debates going on, and this is how you are contributing into those existing debates. A research proposal also determines the originality of your proposed research. So, how original your research is, what kind of contributions are you bringing into that domain? I'll just quickly cite an example here. So, for example, in literature, pretty much every other researcher and every other student is, especially from South Asia, from India and Pakistan, they are extremely highly interested in researching on post colonial studies. So now, slowly, this has become an over researched kind of a domain. So, if I also plan to work on post colonial studies or on say South Asian studies, I need to convince my readers that this is how my research is different from the existing researches. So I need to come up with some kind of a key feature that differentiates, that elevates my research from the existing researches, and that you can do only in your research proposal that you're submitting. And research proposal is submitted for either acceptance or rejection. So you need to make sure that it gets accepted. A research proposal provides you with an opportunity to demonstrate your ability of undertaking a research project. So, now, for example, if you're a science student or if you are a student of management sciences and you have proposed something that is extremely uh, impractical, and if you have proposed something of the sort where you have said that you will, for example, collect data from so and so university in United States, but now you have not mentioned the way you will do it or your connection or your method through which you will do it, your point will not be convincing. Right, so this is how your research proposal actually is an opportunity for you to convince your committee or your funding agency or your supervisor or teacher that you are in a position to practically undertake the research that you're proposing to do. So, for example, if you want to write about something in your PhD or in your MPhil or in your graduation, you will always be asked to submit a research proposal before you actually start writing a thesis. And sometimes your supervisor or your teacher may actually reject your research proposal based on the logic or reason that this is not a practical or doable topic. So you might need to change the topic. So while you're preparing your research proposal, if you follow certain instructions, if you follow certain protocols, it minimizes your chances of being rejected. Right. So, a carefully structured research proposal ensures the acceptance of a research grant or postgraduate admission or your thesis proposal. And it gives you an opportunity to demonstrate that you have the ability to convey or deliver complex ideas concisely and critically. This point is very important. Why? Because now you have to summarize a 100,000 or 150,000 word long thesis, for example, concisely into maybe 2,500 or 3,000 or 5,000 words or 7,000 words. And this is a big job to do all of those things. Your research proposal is a version, a mini version, a miniature of your bigger research project that is already in your head. Obviously, by the time you are writing your research proposal, you do not know what you're going to do, what's going to be the conclusion of your research. But you have the main structure, the frame, the outline in your mind already. So, a research proposal also tells your reader, whoever the reader is, tells the reader your grip on the topic that you're trying to propose or research on. It also demonstrates that you have adequate expertise and experience to undertake the project. It helps you match your area of interest with the appropriate and relevant supervisor. This is also very important, a very major significance of a research proposal. How? Because in when you are, for example, your degree program has a mandatory requirement of thesis writing, thesis project. So you initially submit a research proposal proposing a topic that you want to research on to the department. Now, your area of interest mentioned in the research proposal determines who is the best suited faculty member to supervise you in that particular research. So, this is also another very major significance of a research proposal, that it matches you with your prospective supervisor based on the area of interest. Next, we'll talk about what are the major skills required to write a research proposal. We have another upcoming lecture which will talk about all the components of a research proposal in depth, in complete detail, one by one, and also certain other things relevant to it. But shortly, we'll talk about who can undertake a research. So let's just determine that not everybody is born as a researcher. So some people, even among the university faculty members, there are some people who are excellent teachers, but they are not very proficient researchers. And some people are very good at research, but they might not be very good teachers. So, not everybody is born with some kind of a talent, but you can learn them, you can polish them with time. And the best way to learn research, at least, is to read researches written by other people, as I have mentioned in the beginning of this lecture. So, the more you read, the more you start learning to critically analyze those works. You start finding faults, you start finding loopholes in their researches, and then those loopholes give you a chance to develop your own idea about that particular topic. Those shortcomings in other people's researches or strengths give you an idea of what you want to do in your research that would be different and that would contribute into that existing body of knowledge. But in general, there are certain skills, some very basic skills required to at least start thinking about research or start writing academically. For example, you need to have a researcher's deliberation, meaning habit of thinking about something. Determination. A research work is, it cannot be done without determination. Some people just lose heart in the middle. You cannot write research or get yourself published without having that determination and patience. When you are, for example, in the publication world, are when you have learned to write researches, research articles, research papers, research proposals, and now you are in a phase where you start trying to publish yourself, it is something that requires extreme patience, because at least the local journals in Pakistan take a couple of months to return with a verdict, acceptance or rejection. That uh, needs to be taken with tolerance and patience. Some international journals reply earlier, but even then, facing rejections and facing those critical feedbacks and the reviewers' feedbacks, your teachers, supervisors' feedbacks, is not for the faint hearted, let me say. So, you need to have that determination, deliberation, and patience as a student. You need to develop a critical insight. Now, when I say that you need to have this and you need to have this, it does not mean that you need to have these existing talents in you. You can always learn them, you can always develop them with practice. This is not something that you are born with. So, how can you develop a critical insight? You read more and more and more. And debate and argue and discuss with your peers who are like minded or who are also inclined towards learning research or about any particular area of knowledge. You need to have a knack for asking questions. This is something that people sometimes have by default. They ask questions. Some people are more inquisitive than other people. So ask questions. When you are in a habit of asking questions, only then can you find answers. You need to develop your subject knowledge, polish your subject knowledge. So, for example, if you, in my case, I decided to do my PhD on film and partition literature. So, before, because I had not studied film before, so when I decided to do that, I realized that this means I will have to start learning about a completely different subject all over again, all by myself. And I have never studied that. So before you jump into something new, before you jump into another domain that you have not studied as your course ever before, or even if you have, you need to polish that subject knowledge so that you can claim your place in that specific research. So you cannot immediately start researching on entrepreneurship, on contemporary entrepreneurship, if you have not, for example, studied that or not studied formally. You can study or read about different topics yourself, individually, on your own. Learn about them, learn about the existing trends in that particular area, learn about the existing debates, existing researches that people are carrying on. Yes, that reminds me of another very important thing, a very important tip. How do you know that which topic to research on, which topic is not obsolete? How would you know that? You would again know that by reading researches, by reading through different popular journals in your area, in your field, in your subject, and then seeing the contemporary trends. Read the latest journal issues and see what are the current trends in those journals, what are they publishing, what are they accepting, what are people writing about. And then you will know that these are the contemporary debates. So, for example, you wouldn't want to talk about women's right to vote in feminism, because that has long been gone. Women have the right to vote now. This is the 21st century. There was a time when the feminist school of thought actually began with a struggle or a movement for women to have the right to vote. But you cannot take up that issue as a contemporary issue in 2020. So try to stay relevant to the field, try to stay updated with what is going on in your area. Then you need to develop your communication skills. You need to have good communication skills, communication not just verbal but written also. So, and verbal as well, because you might need to um present your research proposal or your research idea in front of a team, in front of your teachers, in front of supervisors, the department or the funding agency. So you need to have communication skills, written and verbal. Next, you need to have a good grip on academic writing, and that again comes with lots and lots of reading. The more you read, the more you know about the formal expressions, the more you know about the differences between good write up and a bad write up. Now, at this stage, your teachers are in a position to analyze good write up with bad write up. Even you, at this stage, would be able to, if I give you two sentences which convey the same meaning, but one is written, it's a colloquial sentence, one is written as an everyday discourse, and another one is written formally as an academic write up, you would immediately be able to recognize the good one from the bad one. So these are some of the skills that you need to develop as a good researcher, and in order to polish your research writing skills. I hope that this was fruitful for you. We will continue this discussion in the next lecture in detail. There are some of the sources that I have consulted and some more I'll cite them in the next lecture. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach your teachers or me via emails, and we'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.